Perfect.
All right, everybody, what's going on? How y'all doing? Welcome to today's edition of SWACTalk. This is the show we cover the SWAC inside and out, and I'm your tour guide around the SWAC. C-Wells coming at you. And today is our HBCU Top 10 poll, and look at the point spreads for the upcoming games in Week 5. So we're going to do what we do. We're going to go over my top 10 and why I put teams where I put them, and then we'll talk about the point spreads, and I'll give my thoughts on those. And then we'll get on about. Tomorrow we have our Week 5 preview coming at you. It's crazy. We're already really 6 weeks into the season, but officially number 5 since they started Week 0. But man, the season is rapidly moving along, man. And we are basically in conference play. I think we have 4 conference games and 2 non-conference games this week. So we're gonna cover all those games. Thursday, SWAC Smoke live 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern. Sunday, Week 5 recap. Then Tuesday, we'll be back to do it all again. So that's that, man. Make sure y'all subscribe to the channel, man. We just crossed 1,100 on the subscribers, so thank y'all for that. Make sure y'all continue to rock with us. We're gonna continue to bring y'all good SWAC content. Hit that notification bell so you can be alerted to when videos drop. Like the video, share it, comment. And if you wouldn't mind, man, hitting that join button, man, it goes a long way in helping us continue to bring you what we bring you. So gonna have a lot of different fun things on the member section. So y'all make sure y'all check that out and rock with us. Another one quick housekeeping note, man, before we get into the show. My wife, she works for Park Lane Jewelry. October is rapidly approaching, and you all know October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So this month they are asking for your support. They have a necklace called a Hope Necklace that can be purchased for only $20 with a minimum purchase, and 20% of that purchase goes directly to breast cancer research. So I'm gonna have this in the information in the description down below, so you can check that out. I have a link and everything. Y'all can check that out and help support a good cause. Rocking with breast cancer and making sure we look out for that. So with that being said, man, we can go ahead and hop into my top 10. Just to kind of give you a little bit of a methodology for the way I do my top 10. I try not to move teams around on open dates, but on a week where they've had a few teams behind win, or maybe a few teams ahead lose, I will move up and down teams that were open. That week, I try not to, but sometimes situations dictate that you do. This week was kind of one of those weeks. I also try to, if teams are even in record, I try to give head-to-head some weight. If the records aren't even, then I try to work that out as best as I can. And I don't really punish really hard for FBS losses, unless they're just like really, really bad. But I try not to really punish too often for that. And I do weight heavily non-conference wins, especially non-conference FCS wins. I do weight those a little heavily, so that that can boost the team up, or you take an L that can drop you down. So just want to give you an idea of where I stand heading into Week 5. So number 1 is the same from last week. Florida A&M. They defeated Alabama State on Saturday, so they kind of keep themselves in the mix. They haven't moved up any further. I mean, number 1 is as far as you can go. So they are my number 1 team. They're playing solid football. They're not necessarily blowing teams out the water, but they're winning these games by a pretty solid margin. And the defense is playing well. Offense is doing what it needs to do. The run game has kind of took a step back the last couple of weeks, but they still have those weapons, and they remain as my number one team. My number two team is North Carolina Central. They moved up from 3. They beat Valley on Saturday, 45-3, with no Davius Richard. So that, Valley is Valley, but to win a game by that margin without your starting quarterback, that says a lot about how powerful the rest of that team is. And that was a big bounce back from losing to UCLA. So this team is definitely the front runner in the MEAC and still probably one of the front runners to win the Celebration Bowl. That doesn't change coming off of a loss to UCLA, bouncing back, beating Valley in the Circuit City Classic without your starting quarterback, beating them by 42 without your starting quarterback. That still shows you how good this team is. So I jumped them from 3 to 2. Tennessee State was number 3. They were number 2. I dropped them to 3. They were off this week. So by virtue of Central winning and Tennessee State not playing, I dropped them one spot. North Carolina Central plays Campbell at home this week, so that's a nice non-conference outing for them. And Tennessee State is at UT on Saturday, so an OVC game for them this weekend. Number 4 remains the same, and that's Hampton. They also were off this week. They remain at 2-1, so I kept them steady at number 4. They go to Richmond this weekend in a conference game, a Colonial game, or a Coastal, whatever they call a conference now. They go to Richmond for a CAA game. So we'll see how they start to fare once they get into conference play. Number 5, this was a little tough for me. I kept JSU at 5. At 3-2. They escaped against Bethune-Cookman. It just was not a pretty game. They escaped, and I thought about dropping them, but they won that game. That was it. They won it. You win ugly. It's still a win. So I really kept them at that spot. Almost dropped them, but I kept them at that spot. They get an open date this week, coming off of 4 games on the road. Then their first home game. They have an off week this week, so I kept them at 5. Moving into my top 10 is Grambling. I had them at number 6. I almost put them at number 5, but wasn't 100% sure. So I got them at 6. A nice victory against Texas Southern at home. Their running game is playing is flowing. Chance Williams and Floyd Chalk, they run the ball extremely well. Miles Crawley still doing a great job at quarterback. Didn't have the best numbers last week, but didn't need to. The offense ran for almost 300 yards. So, you don't necessarily have to throw the ball around the yard like that. The defense stepped up. I was really critical last week about Grambling's run defense. They played a solid game, keeping TSU's running game in check. And that bumped them up to number 6. So Grambling is 1-0 in conference. They play Prairie View in Dallas in the State Fair Classic on Saturday. And speaking of Prairie View, they also jump into my top 10 at number 7, beating Alcorn on the last-second field goal, 23-20 last week. Prairie View bounced back from 2 tough non-conference losses, and still are playing. They're playing solid offensively. Defensively, they had a really good game stopping Alcorn's run game. Gave up some yards in the pass game, but they were able to play solid defense against the run, which definitely helps you in a game like this. Big win on the road, that's always a plus. They sit at 2-0 in conference. Like I said, they play Grambling, who is 1-0 in conference, in a big West Division game on Saturday in Dallas at the State Fair Classic. So those 2 teams jumped into my top 10. Both had big conference wins on Saturday. Kind of did them in different ways, but they got the job done. So that put them both at 6 and 7. Also jumping back into my top 10. I had them in the top 10 earlier. Dropped them out. They are back after a 1-week hiatus, and that's Norfolk State. Coach Odoms and his guys got a non-conference victory this weekend over Towson State by a score of 21-14 on the road, which also helps. That helps to keep things going. Bounce back from a tough loss to pick up a win on the road. They are 2-1 on the road, so they have played really well away from home. They finding ways to win. Still not looking pretty, but winning games, and that put them at the number 8 spot from unranked. They're 2-2 right now. They play North Carolina A&T at home on Saturday in a game that they should be favored in. I'll check the point spread on that one and let you know in a few. Jumping back into my top 10 from a 1 week hiatus is Alabama A&M. They jumped up to number 9 from being unranked. They beat Pine Bluff 31-24 in a really entertaining game. Quincy Casey, big game, over 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. Big game for him. The running game was solid again. Donovan Eaglin had a great game on the ground. Defensively, they forced a key turnover to help them kind of seal that game up, and that's why I put them back in. Excuse me, knock my camera down. They picked up a big win at home in conference play on a Thursday night, coming off of a tough loss. Sometimes those kind of games can backfire on you. You got homecoming coming up this week, so sometimes you kind of, I don't say necessarily looking ahead, but you may not be 100% focused because you're coming off of a loss playing a team like Pine Bluff, who isn't really expected to do a lot on a Thursday, and knowing you have a game as such as homecoming the next week, it's always kind of a distraction. But they were able to get through this game, overcame a rocky start, an early fumble, overcame that, and played well and picked up the win. And they, like I said, they played Tuskegee on Saturday for homecoming, so that's a big outing for the Bulldogs. And rounding out my top 10, again, this was kind of a back and forth thing, but I have Howard as my number 10 team. They were open this week. They dropped 2 spots from 8 to 10, primarily because I had 4 teams basically jump in the top 10 because they all won last week. So it was basically between Howard and Southern, and Howard was already ranked. So instead of dropping them out of the poll, I slid Southern down and put Howard at number 10. The Bison, like I said, they had an off week. They've had an up and down season, but they have a chance to make some things happen. This still is a dangerous team, especially with their running game. They're a team that you don't want to count them out. They play Robert Morris on Saturday. Still have opportunity to make some things happen at 1-2. They can win this game. They'll be 2-2 before they really get to conference play. So that's my top 10. Last week I had quite a few teams kind of in my honorable mention, others receiving votes, however you want to call it. This week it's still kind of the same, but I kind of, with teams not necessarily having the best records anymore, they don't really fit. But I still decided to mention all these teams because I think they should get some kind of mention. Like I said, Southern was my number 10 team. They dropped out. They are 1-2. The rest of these teams are 1-3, but they're 1-3 and they're looking, different for different reasons. Pine Bluff is 1-3, but they've been in, at least in portions of their games, they've been in every game they played. They were in a tight game with Tulsa for a quarter and a half before Tulsa blew that game open. It took a late block field goal for Tennessee State to beat them. And they basically lost by 7 to Alabama A&M after a red zone fumble cost them an opportunity to score. So this team is playing, they're playing okay ball, not great, but they seem to have found a quarterback. Coach Hampton said in the coach's press conference today that Jalen Macon is the starting quarterback moving forward. No 2-quarterback system. Same thing with A&M. Quincy Casey is the starter moving forward. The offense really moves better with him. He's the better passer out of him and Langford. So he's definitely a guy. If the running game is working, his arm is going to carry the Bulldogs really far. Other than that, I have South Carolina State also in my honorable mentions. They picked up their first win against the Citadel on Saturday. Alcorn is 1-3, coming off of a tough loss against Prairie View, but they're still in. They're still right there. They have Alabama State on Saturday. Also, Alabama State is sitting at 1-2. They dropped out of the poll because their FAMU lost, but they get Alcorn in a big game. It's not not a division game, but it's a conference game. Both teams really trying to keep pace in their divisions. So that's a big non-divisional game, but it's still huge. And Bethune-Cookman, I have at 1-3. They played a solid game against Jackson State. Didn't do a lot offensively. They have some injuries to their quarterback position, and they didn't really do a lot offensively, but defensively they played solid. The run game for Jackson State really gave them fits, but they played well in the passing game and kept themselves in that game for most of the game. So, I just wanted to give them a little recognition. Been pretty hard on the Wildcats in the offseason, and they played fairly well in that game. So just wanted to kind of, show them a little love right there and, kind of give them a little honorable mention. So moving on to our final part of the show, and that's covering our point spreads for the weekend. Alcorn is a 4.5-point underdog at Alabama State. Over under 38.5. They're not expecting a lot of points in this game. Alcorn hasn't scored a lot of points this year. 20 was the most they scored so far. Alabama State, they haven't scored a lot of points this season either. So both of these teams really still trying to find their way offensively. Damon Stewart got to start at FAMU at quarterback for Alabama State. Will he get to start again? That's something that remains to be seen. Hopefully they don't juggle quarterbacks and they kind of make that change and move on. But Aaron Allen threw the ball well for Alcorn, so that helps. Should be a really physical game. Both teams are solid on defense. Neither team really is explosive on offense. So this should be a knockdown, drag-out defensive game. So I can see that game being the way it is. I think anybody get a touchdown lead, they probably win in that game. So I don't really have a problem with that one. Florida A&M, 26.5-point favorite at Valley. I wouldn't be surprised if that spread was bigger, but it's in Itta Bena. Sometimes weird things happen up there. So, that may keep the points down over under 45.5. But I think FAMU can easily cover that as long as they don't get the yips offensively. Defensively, that I don't think Valley's gonna be able to do a lot with FAMU's defense. So I think that's gonna be a game that the Rattlers pretty much win going away. Grambling is a 2-point favorite against Prairie View in the State Fair Classic, over under 64. Both these teams have put up some points. Grambling scored 58 last week, and they scored 35 this week. Prairie View scored 23 this week and 37 in their first game in conference play. So Grambling also scored 31 against Hampton, so they can score the ball. Prairie View is a team that if they get going, they can score as well. Both teams can run the ball well. I think Grambling may have an edge in the passing game. Both defenses are kind of up and down. They kind of bend but don't break. So this is a game I think is going to be one of those State Fair Classics that's a shootout. I think this may come down to who has the ball last. Prairie View's already showed that they can win a game at the end of the game on a kick. So, those kind of things definitely help you moving forward. But if you keep tabs of State Fair Classic, you can have any kind of game. You can have a close, low-scoring game. You can have a game where one team controls it from start to finish. You can have a game where one team jumps out in front early by 10 points or so, and the other team come back. You can have a crazy shootout, and I think this game is probably going to be leaning that way towards a shootout. So I think that's a game that gonna have a lot of points. I agree with that. Lincoln is at Texas Southern. That's homecoming for the Tigers. 27.5-point favorite for the Tigers. I don't know a lot about Lincoln. I'm gonna start to look at them today, and I mean I know they're not a good team, but still you like to know what they're about. Andrew Body's situation, they were we don't really know. As my recording this, because I'm recording this on Monday. Coach McKinney said that Andrew Body would make a statement on social media regarding his status. By the time I recorded this, he hadn't made that statement yet. But if he's made it by the time you watch this, then you can probably throw all of this out. I think TSU can. I think they can. I think they can cover that spread or at least get close to it, even without Andrew Body. The offense just hasn't been clicking without him. They did hit some big plays against Grambling, but they didn't have the consistency moving the ball that you like. But I think they should. I think they should do fine in this game. They have a bye week next week, so that can help them before they jump back in the SWAC play. But being 0-2 is tough in conference play this early. So we'll see what the status is of Andrew Body. We'll cover that for sure when we get our week 5 preview on Wednesday. Let's see. The next game we have SWAC related is Southern, favored by 8 at Pine Bluff. Southern's they're still not great running the ball. The passing game has been inconsistent, but when it's on, it's pretty solid. They have a lot of receivers. When the passing game is clicking, they have the weapons that can get the yardage and score the points. But this team hasn't scored a lot of points. 20 points, like I said about Alcorn, 20 points is the high number for this team so far. They've increased their point total a little bit every week, 10, 13, 14, and 20. So, if they can get like 24 points, I think the defense for Southern is solid enough that 24, 27 points will win this game for Southern. So the offense can not turn the ball over, and the defense can continue to do what they did against Alabama A&M as far as forcing turnovers and slowing the other team down. Then I think Southern can hit that 8-point spread. But Pine Bluff's not going to go away. This is a team that's playing inspired ball. They haven't really had the breaks go their way, but they're putting themselves in position for those kind of breaks. And if they want to pull off an upset, then they need to play solid defense and not turn the ball over. So I think I'm if I was making the spread, I might have Southern as a 6 or 7 point favorite. That's not a big difference between 7 and 8 or 6 and 8. So it's not a huge difference. But I think with Southern offense seeming to be coming together, still not consistent. The run game still hasn't been that we've seen. Coming off of an off week, it's interesting to see how Southern comes out in this game. And I think that's it for our games as far as conference games go. Alabama A&M is favored by 18.5 against Tuskegee. It's homecoming on the hill. Tuskegee's been playing well, but the Bulldogs seem like they may be back on their stride. And I think they have enough weapons, and the defense has been better this year. I think they get that win. I think they probably get. I think they get close to or at least cover the spread over under 52.5. A couple games that are not SWAC games that I want to point out. My top 10 teams are their point spreads. Howard is a 4.5 point favorite at Robert Morris. Hampton's favored by 10 over. Richmond's favored by 10 over Hampton. North Carolina Central is a 2-point underdog at home to Campbell. That should be an interesting game. Last year, Campbell kind of had their way with the Eagles, so we'll see how that game goes. Tennessee State is a 22.5 point underdog at Tennessee Martin. So that's a game that the Tigers really need to show up and show out to keep that down. And Norfolk is a 3.5 point favorite against North Carolina A&T at home. So just wanted to run through those. Like I said, like I always said, entertainment purposes only. I put it out there. You do what you do. Not endorsing nothing, but just throwing those out there. And we'll be back on Wednesday with our Week 5 preview. Like I said, SWAC Smoke coming at you Thursday, 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern. And with that being said, man, I'm your boy C. Wells signing out, and we'll catch y'all on the rebound. Peace.